If you're a man between 30 and 50, navigating the modern dating landscape, you've likely encountered a recurring pattern that leaves you questioning not just the women you're meeting, but the very foundations of connection itself. A whirlwind of emotional highs and sudden withdrawals, promises that evaporate like morning mist, and a sense of chasing something that's always just out of reach, only to realize the pursuit might be rigged from the start. Welcome to Prime Male Evolution. In today's deep dive, we're peeling back the layers of attachment theory, that profound psychological framework rooted in our earliest bonds, which shapes how we love, how we fear, and how we ultimately sabotage or sustain relationships. We'll explore the three primary attachment styles: secure, anxious, and avoidant, along with their nuanced subcategories, arming you with the insights to decode the women you date, recognize the invisible forces driving their behavior, and protect your own peace in a market saturated with emotional minefields. By the end of this exploration, you'll not only understand these styles in theory, but see them manifest in the real-world trenches of dating, particularly focusing on the wounded feminine avoidant style that's so pervasive among women in their mid to late 20s and beyond. Their wounds are often forged in the fires of absent fathers, neglectful upbringings, and a string of toxic exes that have left them armored against true intimacy. Their pair bonding ability is often severely diminished due to promiscuity and repeated failed attempts at forming a pair bond. As a man dating in 2026 and beyond, you need to be aware of these women and recognize the signs early. This knowledge is absolutely crucial to protect yourself from emotional pain, frustration, needless suffering, and wasted years chasing women who can't be the person you need them to be. Stick with me, because this knowledge isn't just academic, it's your shield and compass in the often treacherous terrain of female psychology. Let's begin with the bedrock of attachment theory, drawn from the pioneering work of John Bowlby and Mary Ainsworth in the mid-20th century, who observed how infants form bonds with their caregivers, bonds that become blueprints for adult relationships, influencing everything from how we express needs to how we handle conflict and closeness. At its core, attachment styles are adaptive strategies we develop in childhood to ensure survival and emotional security. But when carried unchecked into adulthood, they can turn what should be a harmonious partnership into a battlefield of unmet expectations and hidden wounds. The three main styles, secure, anxious, and avoidant, each have subcategories that add layers of complexity, and understanding them, especially in the women you encounter, can mean the difference between endless frustration and empowered choices. First, the secure attachment style. This one represents about half of the population and is the gold standard for healthy relating. Individuals with secure attachment, whether men or women, grew up in environments where their caregivers were consistently responsive, attuned to their needs, and provided a safe base from which to explore the world, fostering a deep-seated belief that relationships are reliable and that vulnerability is rewarded rather than punished. In dating, a securely attached woman is a breath of fresh air for a man in his prime. She communicates openly, trusts without constant reassurance, and balances independence with interdependence. Secure attachment creates a dynamic in which both partners can thrive without the drama of games or manipulation. Subcategories here might include variations like secure with anxious leanings or secure with avoidant tendencies. Overall, these women are, unfortunately, rare gems in the over 30 dating pool, often already paired off or discerning enough to avoid the chaos that plagues the less stable styles. If you've dated one, you know the ease of it. Conflicts resolve through calm dialogue, intimacy flows naturally, and there's no undercurrent of fear driving erratic behaviors. In our focus today, secure serves as the benchmark against which the others falter, highlighting what you're often missing in the sea of alternatives. Shifting to the anxious attachment style, which affects around 20% of people, this arises from inconsistent caregiving in childhood. Parents who are sometimes warm and available, other times distant or overwhelmed, leaving the child in a state of perpetual uncertainty. These women are always scanning for signs of abandonment and craving reassurance to quell the inner storm of doubt. Anxiously attached women, in the context of dating men like you, often present as highly emotional, deeply invested early on, and profoundly affectionate. But this intensity masks a fear of rejection that can manifest in clinginess, jealousy, or constant testing of your commitment. Subcategories of the anxious attachment style include preoccupied anxious, where the focus is on relational enmeshment, or fearful anxious, blending anxiety with avoidance due to past traumas, making them oscillate between pulling you close and pushing you away in self-protection. For a man in his 30s, 40s, or 50s, dating an anxious woman can feel profoundly exhilarating at first. The passion, the validation of finally being appreciated and needed again. But over time, it drains you, as her unmet childhood needs project onto you, demanding you fill voids no partner can truly heal. You'll notice red flags like frequent texts seeking affirmation, accusations born from insecurity, or emotional escalations over minor issues, all stemming from that core wound of inconsistency in early bonds. Yet, while anxious styles can be challenging, they often respond well to secure partners who provide steady reassurance without enabling the patterns. A secure man can offer a path to growth if both are willing. However, in the current dating market you're wading through, these women are common but not the primary peril. That unfortunate distinction belongs to the avoidant style, which we'll unpack in depth, as it dominates the landscape for men over 30, luring you in with independence, only to leave you isolated in the end. The avoidant attachment style, which accounts for about 25% of adults, arises from childhood environments in which caregivers were dismissive, unavailable, or even rejecting. Teaching the child that needs are burdens, vulnerability is weakness, and self-reliance is the only safe harbor. These individuals learn to suppress emotions, prioritize autonomy, and view closeness as a threat to their freedom, often without conscious awareness of the walls they've built. Their instinctive self-protection mechanism is pulling away, often disappearing for days or weeks on end, with seemingly no rational explanation. Chasing them only pushes them further away, and if cornered, they can lash out or deploy harsh psychological methods for regaining their precious autonomy and independence. As a man dating in your 30s and 40s, you will encounter many women with this unfortunate and frustrating attachment style. Their avoidant wiring is why their previous attempts at pair bonding have failed over and over. Every time they get close to another person, their internal alarm bells ring, and their self-protective instinct to retreat into solitude kicks in. Within avoidant attachment, we find subcategories such as dismissive avoidant, in which the person intellectualizes emotions and maintains emotional distance. About 65% of dismissive avoidants are men. But of course, some women also fall into this subcategory. People with a dismissive avoidant attachment are often stoic. They suppress emotions, look down on neediness, and prioritize autonomy over connection. Then there's the dreaded fearful-avoidant attachment style. About 65 to 70% of people with this subcategory attachment style are women. The fearful avoidant is a disorganized hybrid that combines avoidance with underlying anxiety, leading to chaotic and confusing push-pull dynamics born from profound early trauma. Making matters even worse, the combination of the fearful avoidant attachment style and the female hormonal cycle is often described in relationship psychology as gasoline on a fire. Research into the intersection of hormones, endocrinology, and attachment suggests that the cycle creates a biological schedule for her avoidance, often making her significantly more confusing to relate to than a standard avoidant male. The fearful avoidant woman already struggles with emotional regulation. The menstrual cycle, specifically the luteal phase, the 10 to 14 days before her period, physiologically mimics the danger signals her trauma brain is looking for. The ovulation peak, the trap. During the first half of her cycle, follicular ovulation, estrogen and testosterone are high. She feels social, confident, and biologically driven to bond. She may be intensely affectionate, vulnerable, and sexual. You feel like you have broken through her walls. The luteal crash, the lockout. After ovulation, progesterone rises and estrogen drops. Biologically, progesterone is a sedating hormone that encourages withdrawal, safety-seeking, and boundary enforcement. This ever-shifting cycle of withdrawal, moods, disappearance acts, and seemingly erratic behaviors can be extremely confusing and difficult to relate to for us men. If you are dating such a woman, you need a solid, unshakable foundation and a profound sense of self-worth. Her alternating hot and cold behavior, her moods, and her sometimes blatant disrespect will chip away at your self-worth. She will make you question everything you say or do, and you will more often than not feel like you've done something wrong, like her cyclical misery and deep-rooted psychological issues are your fault. You need to treat her moods and behaviors like the weather. Enjoy her when she's sunny, warm, and connected. Let her storm rage when she's not. Attempting to fight her biochemically and attachment-fueled winter storms is futile. If you push back with demands or needs, she will feel like her independence is threatened. Your well-meaning attempts to reach out and fix the situation are subconsciously interpreted by her nervous system as a threat. The wiring is so deep in her psyche that no rational arguments, emotional pleas, or well-meaning empathy can cut through it. If you are a secure or anxiously attached man, her behavior is completely counterintuitive. It goes against all your instincts. You want intimacy. She wants freedom and autonomy. You want to connect. She wants to disconnect. You want time together. She wants time apart. Every text message or signal from you during these periods of retreat will only prolong it. The only way to make her come back is to ride out the storm, in complete silence. No contact. No attempts at fixing anything. Not an attempt to close the gap she created. Our main spotlight today falls on what I term the wounded feminine avoidant archetype, a manifestation particularly prevalent in women navigating today's dating scene. The wounded feminine avoidant is shaped not just by general avoidance, but by specific gendered wounds that amplify its destructiveness in relationships with men like you. This wounded feminine avoidant style is characterized by a deep-seated distrust of masculine energy, often rooted in absent or neglectful fathers who failed to provide the protective, guiding presence a young girl needs to feel safe in the world. Her childhood wounds left her to internalize that men are unreliable, that dependence on them invites pain, and that her own femininity must be armored rather than expressed freely. This belief is hardwired into her nervous system. This deep-rooted, dysfunctional wiring is compounded by toxic ex-boyfriends, those narcissistic players, emotional abusers, or serial cheaters who exploited her vulnerability in her 20s. She emerges into her late 20s with a fortress around her heart, presenting as fiercely independent, career-focused, and alluringly mysterious, but beneath it all, terrified of the intimacy she secretly craves. Remember my video on body count? Every failed attempt at pair bonding throughout her teens and early 20s, and every hookup, dulls her oxytocin receptors, gradually diminishing her ability to pair bond. In the dating market for men over 30, this type of woman is ubiquitous because the cultural shifts of the last few decades have amplified such wounds. The sexual revolution, artificially made biologically possible by the invention of the pill, encouraged female experimentation without emotional safeguards, leading to a trail of betrayals that reinforce avoidance. Absent fathers, whether through divorce, workaholism, or outright abandonment, have become an epidemic, with statistics showing that over 20 million children in the US alone grow up without a father figure. This phenomenon imprints ever-growing cohorts of young girls with the belief that men will always leave, and the young men who grow up in these fatherless homes continue the cycle because healthy, core family values and relationships were never modeled. Toxic relationships in young adulthood, often with men who themselves are avoidant or insecure, create a cycle where she learns to detach before she can be hurt or abandoned again. Fatherless homes create a self-repeating cycle of attachment wounds, leading to the destruction of the core family as a backbone of society. It directly leads to female promiscuity and young men acting out with drugs or violence. These women often end up as single mothers, thereby perpetuating the dysfunctional cycle. You'll recognize these women in the wild by their subtle cues. They initially pursue you with charm and flirtation, drawing you in with their confidence and stories of self-sufficiency. But as things deepen, she suddenly pulls back, canceling plans with vague excuses, responding to your vulnerability with deflection or criticism. They often maintain a roster of friends or exes as emotional buffers to avoid true commitment. Her intimacy is compartmentalized. She perhaps offers physical connection readily, but withholds emotional depth, leaving you feeling like a convenience rather than a partner. This isn't mere game playing. It's a survival mechanism etched into her psyche, where closeness triggers alarm bells of potential abandonment, echoing the father who wasn't there for bedtime stories or the ex who ghosted after promises of forever. Studies from attachment researchers like Amir Levine and Rachel Heller in their book Attached reveal that avoidants often pair with anxious types, creating a toxic chase dynamic. But for secure or evolving men like you, it's a mismatch that erodes your self-worth over time. Diving deeper into the wounded feminine avoidant, consider how her father's absence manifests in adulthood. Without that early model of stable masculinity, she views all men through a lens of suspicion, testing you unconsciously to prove you'll fail. A common way she will test you is by creating distance to see if you'll chase her, or by provoking arguments to justify her retreat. Toxic exes add layers, teaching her that vulnerability leads to exploitation. She weaponizes her independence, boasting about not needing a man while subtly resenting the men who do commit elsewhere. She will attempt to make you jealous by talking to other men, just to confirm to herself that you'll leave her. In your age bracket, the dating market is flooded with these women because their 20s were spent in hedonistic pursuits, traveling, or career climbs, delaying self-reflection until biology and loneliness force a reckoning. By the time she realizes that she is the problem, and not all her toxic exes, the avoidance is entrenched, leading to patterns like serial short-term relationships, ghosting after emotional peaks, or idealizing unavailable partners while sabotaging stable ones. Data from the National Institute of Health indicates that women with avoidant attachments report far higher rates of depression and anxiety in midlife. Their issues are often masked by overachievement, but this inner turmoil spills into dating, where she might accuse you of being too needy when you seek basic reciprocity. She will struggle to submit to your masculine relationship role as the leader of the relationship and will often challenge you for dominance. She will rarely initiate or plan intimate moments, and you will feel like your relationship is a one-way street. Every time you placate her moods, you only push her further away. To illustrate, let me share a story from one of my clients, a man we'll call Mark, in his mid-40s, successful in business but battered in love. He met Sarah, a 32-year-old executive with that classic severely wounded avoidant profile. Her father left when she was 5, and she had a promiscuous past and a string of bad boys in her 20s who cheated and vanished. At first, Mark thought she seemed promising. Intellectual sparks, shared adventures, passionate nights. But as Mark opened up about his desires for a future together, Sarah began her inevitable retreat. Texts grew sparse, weekends filled with work emergencies, and when confronted, she'd flip the script, claiming he was pressuring her independence. It culminated in a cycle of makeups and breakups, where she'd pull him back just enough to keep him hooked, only to vanish again, echoing the neglect she knew from childhood. Mark nearly lost his sanity, questioning his worth, until he recognized the pattern, not his failing, but her unhealed wounds. He read Attached by Amir Levine and Rachel S.F. Heller, and he realized the severity of Sarah's attachment wounds. Mark made the soul-shattering choice to walk away despite his love for Sarah. Eventually, he found a secure woman who matched his energy. I have stories like this abound from my sessions, highlighting how these women, while not malicious, perpetuate pain because healing requires confronting the father wounds and the traumas caused by her promiscuous, unstable past with men. Most of these women never confront their demons. They are too comfortable in their precious independence. Confronting their deep, subconscious attachment wounds from childhood requires years of difficult, painful therapy by a highly competent attachment specialist. This difficult introspective work is something the vast majority of wounded, fearful avoidant women refuse to do. It is far easier to blame external circumstances and the endless string of men from her past. Doing so lets her preserve her illusion of control. For you, the key is early detection. Watch for inconsistencies in affection, discomfort with future talk, or a history peppered with crazy exes that might actually reflect her own contributions. Look for information about her family history and her early formative years. Look for butterfly tattoos, septum piercings, brightly dyed hair, validation seeking, excessive drinking, thirst traps online, promiscuity, or a big circle of male friends. Armed with this, you can choose to engage with boundaries if she's open to growth, or disengage to protect your prime years from emotional vampirism. You should know that relationships with severely fearful-avoidant women statistically seldom last more than a few years. It is a slow, painful, emotionally draining spiral into disconnection. If you, despite my warnings, do choose to pursue a fearful-avoidant woman, here is the playbook. The initial phase is high stakes. The beginning is when the fearful-avoidant woman is most volatile, as she oscillates between her intense desire for a savior and her intense fear of a captor. As a securely attached male, your instinct will be to offer consistency, vulnerability, and clear progression. Ironically, if you offer these too freely or too soon, she will perceive it as a trap. Here is the strategic playbook for the initial stages, months 1 to 3. 1. The golden rule. Regulate the intensity. Do not match her highs. The biggest mistake men make is matching her intensity during her good weeks. Ovulation, follicular phase. The trap. In the beginning, she may love bomb you, texting constantly, wanting to see you daily, sharing deep trauma. The mistake. You think, wow, she's really into me, and you reciprocate 100%. The result. When she inevitably crashes, hormonally or emotionally, she will look back at your intensity and feel engulfed. She will panic and think, he's obsessed with me. I need to escape. The strategy, the 70% rule. Only return about 70% of her intensity during the highs. If she texts you 5 paragraphs, send back 2 warm sentences. If she wants to see you 4 times this week, agree to 2. Why? This signals to her nervous system that you have a life. It proves you are not needing her to fill a void. Paradoxically, your slight unavailability makes her feel safer because it proves you aren't trying to merge with her too quickly. 2. Boundaries. The open door policy. The wounded feminine needs to feel claimed, but not caged. She needs to know she is free to leave. Only then will she choose to stay. How to set expectations without pressure. Instead of setting rules for her behavior, which triggers rebellion, set standards for your experience. Bad boundary. Control. You need to text me back within 3 hours. It's disrespectful when you don't. She hears, he is controlling me. Secure boundary. Self-respect. I value consistency in the people I date. If I don't hear from someone for a few days, I assume they aren't interested, and I shift my focus elsewhere. The shift. You aren't telling her what to do. You are stating a fact about who you are. You are the rock. She can crash against you or rest on you, but you don't move. 3. Handling the first deactivation, the pull away. At some point early on, usually around the 6-week or 3-month mark, or during her luteal phase, she will pull away. She might go cold, cancel a date, or seem bored. This is the test. She is subconsciously poking you to see if you will collapse, get anxious, beg. Did I do something wrong? Attack. Get angry. You're being weird. Stand firm. Secure. The secure strategy. When she steps back, you lean back. Do. Mirror her distance, but with warmth. If she takes 6 hours to reply, you take 6 hours. But when you do reply, be cheerful. Don't. Ask, is everything okay? More than once. The script. Hey, it seems like you've got a lot on your plate this week. Why don't we touch base on Sunday when things settle down? I've got some projects to catch up on anyway. Why this works? You just passed the test. You showed her that her distance doesn't hurt you. You gave her the space she needed before she had to fight for it. 4. Vulnerability. Go second. Secure men often lead with vulnerability to build trust. With a fearful attached woman, leading with deep feelings is dangerous early on. If you say, I really see a future with you too soon, she feels the weight of expectation. Strategy: let her lead the vulnerability. Let her be the first to say, "I miss you," or "I really like you." When she says it, affirm it strongly. "I love hearing that. I feel the same way." The dynamic: you provide the structure, planning dates, logistics, safety. Let her provide the emotional depth, feelings, future talk. If you try to provide both, she has no role to play. 5. The dog whisperer mindset. Think of her like a nervous rescue animal that wants to be petted but bites if you move too fast. Don't look at the hand, look at the eyes. When she acts avoidant or bitchy, don't take the behavior at face value. Look at the fear behind it. Her disappearing acts aren't a rejection of you. They are self-regulation for her. Reward the behavior you want. When she is consistent, warm, and communicative, give her your attention. When she is cold, withdraw your attention, not your love, just your focus. Don't punish the distance. If you punish her, sarcasm, cold shoulder. When she returns from a cold spell, she learns that returning equals pain. You want her to learn that returning equals safety. When she goes silent for days, do nothing. She is merely overwhelmed and needs to self-regulate. Don't text, don't chase, don't check up on her. Focus on your own life and wait until she returns. When she cancels a date at the last minute, she is thinking, "I need space, don't trap me." Your response: "No worries at all. Let me know when you're free next week." Then go have fun without her. When she picks a petty fight, her subconscious mind is thinking, "Push him away before he hurts me." Your response: "I can see you're upset, but I'm not going to argue about this. Let's talk when we're both calm." Walk away. When she shares deep trauma, she is thinking, "Will he judge me? Leave?" Your response: "Listen deeply. Do not fix. Instead, tell her, 'Thank you for trusting me with that.'" As we wrap this journey through attachment styles, remember that while anxious and secure have their places, the wounded feminine avoidant is the siren call of the over 25 dating market, promising allure, but almost without fail, delivering isolation and pain. By understanding these dynamics, you're not just surviving dating, you're mastering it, selecting partners who enhance your life rather than erode it. If this resonated, hit like, drop your thoughts in the comments. Have you encountered an avoidant woman? And subscribe with notifications turned on. We drop fresh PME insights every Thursday. You're not the problem, you're the navigator. This is Prime Male Evolution. You're in your prime. Own it.